Ever wondered what Formula One was like in its very first years? Back then, safety gear was minimal, and racetracks were extremely dangerous, often without any barriers or basic protection at all. Cars were built purely for speed, not safety. Today, Formula One is a completely different world. Modern cars are equipped with the most advanced safety systems, the result of decades of evolution, research, and painful lessons learned from every critical incident. In this video, we'll explore the key stages in the evolution of Formula One safety. From simple cork helmets and seatbelts to high-tech fireproof suits and real-time driver monitoring systems. You'll learn about the tragic events that changed the rules, the innovations that saved lives, and how the 2025 season showcases the highest safety standards the sport has ever seen. Let's go back to the 1950s, when Formula One was pure adrenaline and almost no protection. The cars back then were built simply for speed. Nobody thought much about the drivers themselves. Racers drove in whatever felt comfortable. Freedom of movement was all that mattered. Short sleeves were common, sometimes just so the breeze could pass through during the race. Legendary drivers like Juan Manuel Fangio raced in shirts and regular pants. Style over safety. Just imagine Lewis Hamilton today driving a Formula One car without a fireproof suit. Hard to picture, right? But change only came after tragedy. Head injuries took the lives of many drivers, forcing the FIA, the governing body of Formula One, to take action. In 1952, cork helmets became mandatory. Those helmets looked nothing like the advanced headgear we see today, but they were better than nothing. Between 1952 and 1960, a series of deadly crashes pushed the sport to finally introduce stronger safety measures. Luigi Musso, for example, lost his life at the 1958 French Grand Prix after a fatal head injury. That same year, Peter Collins crashed in Germany, was thrown from his car, and struck a tree. In 1960, Chris Bristow's crash in Belgium exposed the terrifying dangers of high-speed European circuits with poor barriers and no runoff zones. In total, around 18 Formula One drivers were killed between 1952 and 1960, and many more were seriously injured, though the exact number was never properly recorded. These tragedies finally led to the first organized safety improvements in the 1960s. Legendary driver Jackie Stewart, shocked by the danger surrounding him, became one of the sport's loudest voices for safety. Thanks to his efforts, the first rollover bars were introduced in 1961 to protect drivers if their cars flipped. 2 years later, in 1963, racing suits became mandatory. At first, they were basic, but by 1975, they became fire-resistant, setting a new standard. By the 1980s, race suits were being designed with input from NASA, improving fire protection dramatically, though at the cost of comfort. Modern suits, by contrast, are lightweight, breathable, and capable of withstanding temperatures of up to 800 degrees Celsius for more than 10 seconds. In 1963, Formula One also introduced a dual braking system for reliability and redesigned fuel tanks to reduce the risk of fire after crashes. The cockpit, that small but strong space where the driver sits, was also upgraded to allow quicker escapes in emergencies. That same era saw the introduction of flag signals to improve communication with drivers and control races. The FIA finally began inspecting racetrack safety standards. The tracks themselves were upgraded, replacing hay bales with Armco steel barriers designed to absorb impact energy and reduce injuries. These steps were a response to the harsh reality of repeated fatalities and the growing pressure from drivers demanding change. The 1970s became a turning point in Formula One safety, a decade shaped by both progress and loss. The death of Jochen Rindt in 1970 during qualifying shocked the world. He remains the only posthumous world champion in Formula One history. That tragedy led to the introduction of 6-point seatbelts in 1972, which kept drivers firmly in place and prevented ejection during crashes. From 1971, drivers were trained to escape their cars within 5 seconds after an accident. Marshals and spectators were moved 3 meters away from the track for safety. After the death of Ronnie Peterson in 1978, when delays in medical response proved fatal, Formula One appointed its first official medical director and dramatically improved trackside medical care, including rescue helicopters and rapid response teams. In racing, every second can mean the difference between life and death. The 1970s also introduced the pit lane as a separate, dedicated zone. Before that, tire changes and refueling happened literally on the side of the track. Then came the 1980s, and with them, a true revolution in car design. The arrival of the carbon fiber monocoque chassis replaced the old metal frames, giving drivers a survival cell that offered far greater protection without sacrificing speed. It was a game changer, born from the lessons of past crashes where metal frames simply couldn't withstand the impact. Eventually, the FIA introduced mandatory crash tests. Every car now had to pass rigorous testing before being allowed to race, a crucial milestone in making Formula One as safe as it is today. And that became the first truly important step, when the organization finally started acting not only in response to accidents, but proactively to prevent them in the future. Then came the tough 1990s. Since 1993, the safety car, in the form we know it today, became a permanent part of Formula One races. The safety car plays a crucial role. It slows down the field and bans overtaking whenever track conditions are too dangerous for full-speed racing. Since 1996, Mercedes-Benz has been the main supplier of Formula One safety cars. And since 2021, that role has been shared between Mercedes-Benz and Aston Martin. Today, the man behind the wheel is professional driver Bernd Maylander, who's been doing this job for over 25 years. Honestly, that's a pretty cool job, right? But as you know, the 1990s were also a dark period for Formula One. That's when the sport lost more drivers than in any other decade. The 1994 San Marino Grand Prix left a deep scar on the history of Formula One. It was one of the most tragic weekends ever, when Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna both lost their lives in separate accidents. These deaths, along with injuries to other drivers and even spectators, exposed serious flaws in car design and track safety. The reaction was immediate. Speed limits were introduced in the pit lane, helmet safety standards were raised, and cockpit sides were made higher to protect the drivers' heads. Wheel tethers were also introduced, after it became clear that loose wheels during crashes were deadly, both for drivers and for the fans. Because let's be honest, a wheel flying at 150 miles per hour is not the kind of souvenir you want to take home. Tracks were upgraded too, with asphalt runoff areas instead of gravel traps, which often flipped cars over. All of these changes were a direct response to that tragic weekend. In the early 2000s, technology completely changed the approach to safety. The Hans device, short for head and neck support, became mandatory in Formula One in 2003. It limits head and neck movement during a crash, reducing the chance of severe or fatal injuries. It attaches to the driver's helmet and sits on a carbon fiber collar. Tests show it reduces neck loads by about 72% and helps prevent skull fractures and other fatal injuries. Then came reinforced helmets with Xylon panels, designed to stop flying debris, and biometric gloves to monitor a driver's vital signs. These appeared in 2009 after several serious incidents, including Felipe Massa's injury when a suspension spring from another car hit his helmet. Xylon is an incredibly strong synthetic fiber, placed above the visor to prevent penetration by objects. And of course, we can't forget the permanent ban on refueling during races, introduced in 2010, after too many dangerous pit lane fires. Now, cars start with full tanks and rely on hybrid systems, making pit stops much safer. Modern F1 fuel tanks are flexible, Kevlar-reinforced rubber bags, puncture-resistant, and elastic enough to withstand heavy impacts. And finally, the Halo. Introduced in 2018, this titanium arc above the cockpit protects the driver's head from debris and impacts. At first, fans hated it. They said it ruined the car's look. Even drivers complained. Lewis Hamilton called it the ugliest change ever, though he admitted safety must come first. Max Verstappen criticized it too, until it saved Romain Grosjean's life in a fiery crash in 2020. After that, Verstappen fully supported the Halo system. And now, here we are. The 2025 Formula One season is in full swing. By the way, tell me in the comments, Who are you cheering for this year? Maybe Lando Norris? Or is that no longer trendy? Modern Formula One cars aren't just about speed anymore. They're about technology that keeps drivers safe even before help arrives. And one last message to those who think safety doesn't matter. Friends, we don't watch Formula One to see someone crash. We watch it for the skill, the speed, and the passion. If you disagree, drop a comment and let's talk about it. I wish safety for every driver and success to your favorite team.